Which show starts as a 10 out of 10 but ends as a 1 out of 10? I loved the first season of Heroes, but it declined drastically to the point I stopped watching pretty abruptly. Heroes was one of the shows that got hit hard by the writer's strike and weren't able to recover from it. I don't know that it started as a 10 out of 10, but Weeds absolutely collapsed after about the third season and somehow kept going. I really enjoyed the first season or two. I loved when it was the story of a bored mom selling a little pot on the side in the neighborhood. You know, neighborhood shenanigans. When it brought in Mexican drug cartels, it moved away from a fun, mostly lighthearted show to something much darker and more serious, and that's not what I wanted it to be. Besides from Game of Thrones, you mean? The worst thing about the final season of GOT is that every single plot thread is closed in such an unsatisfying way that it destroys any rewatching potential the show had, because, you know, every single plot thread and character arc ends up in a shit heap. I absolutely loved Blacklist. I could watch James Spader in his element all day, but as the seasons went on, I could no longer tolerate the character of Elizabeth Keene and the constant flip-flopping of whether Reddington is her father or not. It got so old. Game of Motherfucking Thrones, also Dexter. Especially if you read the books, the show goes on its own stupid tangents. That's what I came here for. I'm still amazed at how they were able to crash this show into the wall in a way that basically made people, almost, stop mentioning the show at all. Grey's Anatomy, and it's not even done, LOL. It's so disappointing because it started out as great. The characters now have no depth, and I feel like the writers keep coming up with bland storylines just to make money. I'll still watch though, call me a loyalist. The Walking Dead. I stopped watching probably the season after Glenn died, and that tiger guy showed up. Never looked back. Once upon a time, I loved the first 2 seasons, but I literally couldn't watch after that. I watched the whole thing because I'm a masochist. You didn't miss much. I do have a thing for Colin O'Donoghue and Lana Parrilla, so I pretty much watched for those characters. But holy moly, I cannot believe I sat through the whole crap with Hades. Greg German nailed the part though, or Evil Swan. That 70s show. Once Eric left for Africa, everything fell apart. This show was a staple in my house. We would all watch the new episodes when they came out, which I feel was on Sunday night before school. American Horror Story. The beginning seasons were so good, but over the last few seasons has fallen drastically. Westworld. Such a sharp decline. My God, it was God tier in season 1. Killing Eve. Season 1 and season 2 were divine. Season 3 was kinda okay, but was all over the place. Season 4 had its moments, but was ultimately just pure shit. The Arrowverse. Goodness, everyone had to become a bow-themed superhero at some point. Pretty Little Liars. The way it ended was straight up insulting to everyone who spent years loyally watching that show. Once Upon a Time. It should have stopped after season 3 and 4. They started doing too much, and I could barely finish the show. I had to force myself to sit and watch till the end of each episode. Also, Belle and Rumpelstiltskin's relationship made me uncomfortable. I didn't like it at all. They should have stopped after the Peter Pan arc IMO. Nobody has said Shameless US version yet. After years of repetitive plots and the characters becoming more and more intolerable every year, I realized I was just hate watching at the end. I took Emmy Rossum's departure as my opportunity to give up. The Witcher started with a 10 out of 10 actor and will end as a 1 out of 10 show. I've got to say, because I haven't seen it mentioned yet, Vikings. Seasons 1 and 3 with Ragnar were great, then it got more like a soap opera where they bring in over-the-top characters just to kill them off. It was more like a low-budget hair product advertisement by the end. Under the Dome. Designated Survivor. Orange is the New Black. True Blood. The first 2 seasons were amazing, and then it began a slow but steady decline into what the fuck territory. BBC Sherlock began as a very fun Sherlock adaptation in modern London, and then promptly missed the landing and hit hell by finishing off the last season, with Sherlock's secret sister killing off one of the only likable female characters, and then putting everyone in a saw trap. Also, she's basically psychic and plays violin. Never seen a show shoot itself so hard in the foot before. Ragnarok. I waited forever for that last season to come out, and it was a complete bust. The Goldbergs, it started out as such a funny show, especially for those of us that grew up in the 80s. It should have ended a couple seasons before it did. It was nearly unwatchable at that end. Arrested Development. 3 fire seasons, a mediocre 4th, and a 5th that is worth the trouble. Most of them. My choice is Misfits. After they expelled Nathan, it went spiraling downwards. About to get downvoted. Stranger Things. It went downhill quick after season 2.